Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to share a little bit of gardening advice with you guys today. The best advice I ever got for my garden, other than just start, is to make a solid plan. This has been a huge game changer in my gardening, just taking off stress and doubt, making me so much more productive, and making the entire gardening season just way more fun. The first thing you need to do is decide what you're going to plant. So I like to decide this based on what I actually like to eat, what my family actually likes to eat. First and foremost, all of the fun, different, weird varieties are great for adding interest and keeping you excited about your garden. But ultimately, our garden is to feed us. So picking things that you actually eat and enjoy eating is going to make a big difference in your productivity in your garden. Pick things that actually grow well in your area. This makes a huge difference. You're not having to fight Mother Nature and baby things along that are really struggling. If you want the most productive garden with the least amount of effort, focus on plants that are going to thrive where you live. And that's not to say that you can't pick a few that you have to baby along if you really want to. For me, where I'm at, if I want to grow peppers and tomatoes, I have to baby them along a lot more for sure. And I still choose to do that a lot of the time. But the majority of my crops, I really focus on picking ones that are regionally adapted so that they thrive in my area. Storage crops, or just knowing how you want to preserve your harvest ahead of time. Really think about the foods that you enjoy year-round, because you're going to want your garden harvests to supply a little bit past your harvest zone, probably. If you're like me and you're in a short season, you definitely want to put up some of your garden bounty for the winter months. So thinking about what crops are going to store in which ways and how you ultimately would want to eat them is a really important step. I've been focusing a lot on winter squash lately because they are so easy to store. It adds no extra workload in the fall. All you need to do is bring them inside and put them on the shelf, and they will store most of the winter that way. Another one I like to focus on is dried beans and green beans. Dried beans are a little bit of elbow grease to shell, but then they store wonderfully and you don't have to can them or process them further to just store them like that. And green beans are actually pretty easy to can. They're a simple one, and I enjoy having canned green beans on my dinner table throughout the winter. So those are just a few examples of how I think about how I'd like to ultimately eat something throughout the cold months, and I plan my garden accordingly. I plant a pumpkin that is specifically adapted to my area that will also make a beautiful soup all winter long for me that stores on my shelf for months and months and months. I plant one squash that is perfect for roasting and adding to sheet pan meals, and that will also store on my shelf with 0 extra steps for months and months and months. I plant green beans that are best for canning, and I plant one variety that is best for dried beans. Think about what actually brings you joy. If the really funky offbeat varieties do bring you genuine joy, plant a couple. Just don't do your whole garden in funky things that are going to need to be babied to make it along. If it's funky and it happens to be regionally adapted, that's perfect. I actually don't plant zucchinis anymore. I've switched to a white scallop squash that is a traditional Native American seed. It's wonderful, it's prolific, it's hardy, it does incredibly well in my area, and it's a lovely summer squash. It tastes just like a zucchini, but they're these cute little scallop discs, and that brings me a lot of joy. Everybody has zucchinis, and you can buy zucchinis for 50 cents at the grocery store in the summer. So it's a little bit demoralizing when you're, babying this huge zucchini plant that has powdery mildew or whatever else, when you could just buy them so inexpensively at the store. So for me, growing a little bit something different there really does make a difference because it brings me a lot of joy and helps keep me motivated in the garden. So by all means, do some funky things, plant a bunch of flowers, like whatever makes your heart happy, do implement that. You want your garden to be a space of joy and happiness where you feel content and you feel excited about getting out there and being with your garden. Make a strategy for what you want to plant, when it needs to be planted, where it should be planted, how much you need to plant. That's where a garden planner comes in really, really handy. This is so far my very favorite garden planner I've used. It's by Melissa K. Norris. If you're not familiar with her, she's wonderful. She's written a lot of great things. She does a lot of canning. I think that's really her main niche, is she does a ton of canning. She has a lot of great canning resources, and just general homesteading. She's also in Washington State, but she's on the other side of the Cascades from me. Check out her content for sure. She's really great. She's put together this amazing garden planner that focuses on producing a year's worth of food for your family. So she's got some really great charts in here that go through if you want to do this canning recipe and put up this many pints of whatever, you need to grow this many plants. That was a really fun chart that was in this garden planner. And she also breaks it down by months. So what tasks do you need to complete in each month? And really walks you through how to decide when you should start your seedlings indoors, when you should direct seed things, when transplants go out. So it does take a little bit of time and effort up front to go through and figure out all your last frost dates, figure out when each seed should be started, and do all that legwork up front. But once you've completed it and filled it in, as long as you don't move to a really different location, this can be reused year after year after year to just give you an idea of when you should be starting seeds, how many of each seed you should be starting, if they should be direct or transplants. It just really gives you a great breakdown month by month, week by week, and helps you avoid that burnout and overwhelm and constantly looking up again, when should that be planted? And also the second guessing with how much. She really covers that well. I'm going to link this book in the description, but I wanted to just share with you guys what my month by month looks like. I can't do anything in January other than start dreaming and planning, but that's a great time to get excited about the garden because it's dark and there's nothing else really going on. It's a great little pick-me-up to just start thinking about if I need to order any seeds or just start dreaming about the garden to come. February is exciting. There's a couple of things I can do in February. I can start my onion seeds, I can prune my orchard, and I can start cold stratifying any seeds that require it. Now, if I didn't get to my fruit trees in February, I can still do that in March. I can prune the orchard and the berry bushes and get those ready for spring. I can direct sow wildflowers and herbs, prep my garden beds, and start asparagus from seed. April gets exciting. Things start to pick up for me in April. I can plant most of my herbs. I can start pepper and tomato seeds indoors. Broccoli gets started indoors. Cabbage and peas can be direct sown by the end of April. In May, I can direct sow carrots, lettuce, kale, and radishes. Beets, potatoes, corn and asparagus, and then I can start my squash and cucumbers indoors. In June, beans and bok choy can be planted out. Rutabagas, squash can be transplanted. In July, I can plant a round of fall broccoli, carrots, and radish. I can do some fall cabbage, beets, kale, and lettuce. And in August, I might be able to squeeze in another round of baby bok choys. But that's about the end of my season here. Unless I use a cold frame or a season extender, that's about the extent of my outdoor gardening window. Thank you guys for joining me today as we talked about garden planning and just getting ready for the season to come. I hope you enjoyed and maybe feel a little bit more ready or inspired to start planning your garden. Let me know in the comments what you're planting this year and maybe what your garden planning strategies are. If you use a different garden planner, I'd love to hear about it and your thoughts on it. Always open to new things. So do let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your day.